Good morning. It is great to be together on this weekend after Easter. I hope you had a great Easter. I'm Pastor Chris. It's awesome to be giving you the message today. If it's your first time here, we welcome you. I hope you feel welcomed. It's just awesome to be worshiping with you today. To get you into, we have been doing for 14 weeks, we have been looking through the Gospel of John. And we've been looking through the signs that point us to Jesus, and it has been an awesome adventure. And we're answering in this whole series two really big questions. Who is Jesus, and who is Jesus to me? They are big questions that we really have to sit with and stew with. And today, we are going to be looking at one person that's asking the same questions. We're looking at Simon Peter today. Now, we're going to do a real big zoom in on him as we close out the Gospel of John. And where Simon Peter is right now is he's struggling. Because where we left him off earlier during the crucifixion and the arrest of Jesus is that Simon Peter denied Jesus. Jesus said 3 times that he was going to deny him. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. And Simon Peter did. But see, Simon Peter was actually the most mentored disciple of Jesus. There's a lot of areas in the Gospels that we often see Simon Peter go off with Jesus and ask a lot of questions to Jesus. And Jesus spent a lot of time with Simon Peter and kind of deep friendship, and they were very close. And so we often say that he's one of the most mentored disciples of Jesus. Jesus actually called him Petros, the rock that the church will stand on. That's a really big name to be given by Jesus, right? And then to go and deny him 3 times, act like you don't even know him, it's such a difference. It's a big thing. And Simon Peter, what we will see today is he's sitting with this guilt, the shame, and the loss of a really good friend. And he doesn't know that Jesus has resurrected yet. And so what we're going to see is a big change in Simon Peter. So we're going to get right into our scripture, John chapter 21, verse 1. Afterward, Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Galilee. It happened this way. Simon Peter, Thomas, also known as Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 other disciples were together. I'm going out to fish, Simon Peter told them, and they said, we'll go with you. So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. So what we see is Jesus had passed away. He was killed on the cross, right? And they spent 3 years of their life devoted to following Jesus. I mean, that's a long time. Every day was spent with Jesus. And then we get the days after. And I don't know, I laugh at inappropriate things maybe. I kind of find some humor in this because they're like, so what do we do now? And it's like, well, what did we used to do? We fished. Want to go fishing? Sure, let's go fishing. And talk about the darkest boating, fishing experience. I usually see people happy fishing out there on the Navasink. They are not happy. They're there fishing, right? Let me ask you this question. Did you ever do something and you used to have these skills and you used to be good at something and you used to be proud of that, and then you tried it again and you weren't so good at it, right? Let me introduce you to something called the Dericks family Easter gathering, okay? And so that's me. My last name's Dericks, right? And so that's my family. See, normal families, they usually have Easter egg hunts where, they hide the eggs and the kids, they go out, they bring their baskets. Go back. No. See, normally, Easter baskets, right? And they go around and they hunt and they find it, and the kids are like, no, this kid has too much. Share with this kid, right? And that's kind of how a normal family does an Easter egg hunt, all right? But this is what it looks like in my family right here, okay? See, they attach Easter eggs to the dads, and then the kids hunt the dads. And so it is absolutely ruthless. You see, I used to be fast. I used to think that, well, at least I was faster than the kids, okay? And I knew I could beat them and they'd have to chase me. I thought that this was going to be something where I ran around and I felt bad for them, and then I'd start giving them the eggs. No, that was not the case, okay? Even in my mind, I had, if they were to catch me, I would just throw them. I would just toss them and not let them have the eggs. I mean, this was a competition. Like, a different brain flipped when we did this, okay? Now, this is what actually happened. My carcass is under those kids there, okay? I am laying on wet ground. It took about 20 seconds for them all to maul me, catch me, throw me to the ground, and then I was still, by the way, I had no idea that this was happening on Easter Sunday. I went straight from church in my nice church clothes, right, from the traditional service, and then I ended up on the wet lawn, like a pile of an uncle just laying there. You see, I used to be is the key phrase there. I used to be. When we move to Simon Peter, he's asking this question of who am I? Who am I anymore? You see, when he first would ask this question, before he met Jesus, he was a fisherman, right? He would always answer, I am a fisherman. That's what we do. His family was known as fishermen, like he's a fisherman. But then when he was with Jesus for 3 years, he was known as a disciple, a student, right? And so he really took on that name, and he asked questions, and he really took that seriously. But now that Jesus is dead, now that Jesus is dead because he denied him 3 times, right? He sits with this, am I a traitor? Am I a failed student? And he's having kind of an identity crisis here. You see, we have this thing called imposter syndrome, right? I deal with it all the time. See, we deal with it as Christians, right? We're always asking this question of like, who am I? Am I as a Christian like everybody else? Like, well, we're all sitting with this question of how am I? I'm not as good as this person over here, right? And there's this thing called imposter syndrome, and often I have imposter syndrome as a pastor and as a counselor. And as a counselor, I often, I sit with people in professional counseling, and I'll talk to them, and they'll be telling me things, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, these people really should see a professional. And then I realize I am the professional that they're coming to see, right? And as Christians, we do the same thing. They really should speak to a Christian here that could tell them about Jesus. You are the Christian that they're talking to. And so often we feel like imposters of who am I? So we sit with that today. Who am I? We're just like Peter. We're just like Peter. So let's keep going in our to verse 4. Early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. He called out to them, "Friends, haven't you any fish?" "No," they answered. He said, "Throw your net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some." When they did, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." As soon as Simon Peter heard him say, "It is the Lord," he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken it off, and jumped into the water. Go right to the next. I don't know if this is supposed to read as funny, and that's just something I do sometimes. But like, if I saw one of my friends who I've been with 3 years, I would use it as a way to mess with them. Like, hey, Simon Peter, haven't you got any fish? Aren't you guys supposed to be professional fishermen? Looks like you're a little rusty at this thing. And hearing those, I'm sure that wasn't easy to hear as you're on a boat struggling, and then you're not even able to do the thing that you used to be good at, right? And they're struggling. And he hears, you got any fish? Of course, Jesus knows, and Simon Peter and everybody on the boat knows, no, we don't have any fish, right? And you would think that he'd yell back at him and be like, no, we don't have any fish. Like, no, I'm not going to throw the net onto the right side of the boat. And actually, this has happened before. It's an interesting thing, because back in Luke's gospel, the first time Jesus went to Simon Peter, he said, throw the nets. And they're like, no, we're professionals here. Like, we know what we're doing. You're a carpenter. Like, let the professionals handle it. We've been fishing all day. He said, throw it in, and boom, a miracle, all these fish come into the boat, right? But now, with this time, right, he doesn't yell back. He just throws the nets. Because this is a different Peter. This is the one that's seen miracles. So he just throws the net on the other side of the boat. Doesn't even ask any questions. And when they saw all the fish, they just said, it is the Lord. They knew who did this, right? They said, it's the Lord. And boom, fish. There it is. You see, they're saying now, Jesus is alive. He's resurrected from the dead. They knew that this was Jesus. Everything that Jesus said would happen has happened because he is alive. And yes, they're celebrating resurrection. See, it's not just resurrection for Jesus. Resurrection means for them that now Peter's story is going to change. He is now not stuck in that boat. He's not going back to being a fisherman. His story is changing and moving. You see, resurrection means this. Resurrection moves us from despair into hope. We can take that dark place and move it into a place of light, right? Resurrection means that God is still writing our stories. Still writing our stories. That your story, whatever it is right now, it may feel stuck. It's not stuck. It's moving into a different place because resurrection happened. Jesus is not done with Peter's story, and he is not done with our story. I don't know if you've ever heard of this man. It's named John Newton. He was known first as a slave trader. He was a captain on a slave trade boat. And later in life, he became a Christian, and he really struggled with all the feelings of what he used to do. And he had a lot of conviction over being a slave trader. He really struggled with that. And so he became deeper into his convictions, deeper into his faith, and he grew in that faith, but wanted to be known as something else. Here's the amazing thing. John Newton is the one who's known for writing Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Isn't it amazing how that song could be one of the most transformative hymns in all of history, right? So many people sing that song to talk about changing their life. I once was this, but now I'm this, right? And I never knew that it was written by someone who used to sell slaves. It's deep and profound. You see, Simon Peter, when he comes to the resurrected Jesus, he just starts swimming. 100 yards out, just starts swimming, leaves the boat, right? He's leaving the fishermen behind on the boat. No longer am I a fisherman. I'm a fisherman. I'm a fisher in the new world of what Jesus is transforming. Let's go on to our next verse. When they landed, they saw a fire of burning coals, there with fish on it and some bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish you have just caught." So Simon Peter climbed back into the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153. But even with so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." None of the disciples dared ask him, "Who are you?" They knew it was the Lord. Jesus came, took the bread, and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. This was now the third time Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. You can switch that slide. Simon Peter gets to the shore. It's Jesus, and they all know it's him. It's kind of like last week when Jason was saying that he was a little bit different, but they still knew it was him. It's the same thing. He was a little bit different. They still knew it was him. They knew that it was him. They could see that it was him. And I love that the writers pointed out something really cool about it. They pointed out that there was 153 fish. See, me, I would have just said, it's a lot of fish, right? But for something, it was significant to them to count the fish, and it was all large fish, right? They counted all of the fish, and they remembered the number, and it got into the gospel because it was so important for them to count the number of fish that they found because it was such a great number. And I love what Jesus does when he first sees the broken disciple. He doesn't say, "What's the deal, Simon Peter? Like, well, you denied me. I told you so, right? I told you that was going to happen." He doesn't do any of that, right? All of the things that have been stuck in Simon Peter's head, ruminating around. You know that. You know what you do with the ruminating thoughts, right? Those things when maybe you did something, you messed up something negative is going on, you just keep swirling those thoughts and you try to sleep, they're swirling. There's a bunch of things that you definitely don't want to do when you have ruminating thoughts. You don't want to paint, right? You don't want to paint when you ruminate. You definitely do not want to cut grass, because you're just stuck in those that you're not thinking about. They're just mindless things that you're doing. And the last thing, you don't want to fish, right? You don't want to fish. And what's Peter been doing? He's been stuck on a boat, fishing with all of his thoughts, ruminating, right? But Jesus meets him and doesn't say the words that he thought he would say. He just says this, "Come and have breakfast." Come and have breakfast. I think about how many moments of Jesus' ministry happened around a table. You see, it's actually profound. If you count them, there's so many moments that they keep counting the meals. Like, there's all these meals. And here's the thing, is that they actually remembered the meals. You know, they remembered the miracles. They definitely remembered the miracles, but they really, really remembered the meals. Because the meals tell us something about Jesus. Jesus didn't just want followers. You see, if he wanted just lots of followers, he would just do the miracles, and he would do more miracles and all these things, and he would get lots of followers. But no, they keep writing about all of these meals that they had. And then here on the beach, more meals, right? A meal. See, Jesus didn't just want followers. Jesus wanted relationship. You see, relationship happens at a table. At a table, people slow down. We talk about things. We laugh about things, right? That's where laughter happens. Hearts open up. See, at the table, strangers become friends. Broken people discover healing. You see, if I have a conflict with someone, I don't email. I usually pick up the phone and say, "Let's go get coffee," or let's have lunch. Because there's a lot of healing that happens around meals. And so Jesus says, "Come and have breakfast." Jesus knew exactly what Peter needed to heal. He needed a meal with the risen Lord. Sit down. Let's be together. Jesus sits with us in our brokenness and says, "Let's eat together. Let's be together." Jesus offers forgiveness. See, brokenness is not where he lets us stay. He moves us on. And what we will see, he keeps moving Simon Peter on as well. So let's take a look at our next verse. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said. "You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again, Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." The third time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, "Do you love me?" He said, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my sheep. Very truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you to where you do not want to go." Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter will glorify God. Then he said to him, "Follow me." Who am I? This is the question that Simon Peter is having to answer. See, he can't seem to figure this out, right? See, if it was anyone else, we would be like, "Jesus, why does he keep asking over and over and over again?" He asked them 3 times, "Do you love me? Do you love me?" And see, God always asks questions, right? Not because he needs the answer. He already knows the answer. It's God, right? Even in the garden, all the way back in the garden, he asked Adam and Eve questions that he already knew the answers to, right? He's asking these questions to Simon Peter because he wants Simon Peter to reveal something in himself. So he keeps asking, "Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me?" Right? See, 3 times he asks because 3 times he denied, right? This is not humiliation. This is restoration. With every question, Jesus is pulling away the shame of the denial, pulling it away. Peter's identity is not the man who failed. Peter's identity is the man who loves Jesus, and then some, and then some. You see, in other words, Jesus isn't just restoring Peter's heart. He's restoring his purpose, his identity, because each time he's saying, "Feed my sheep, feed my lambs." He's not leaving them in just that "you love me." He's giving them a purpose. A long time ago, when I first became a pastor, I was liking this pastor thing. Oh, yeah, I like it. You know, this is fun. I felt like I was doing okay, and I liked it. I liked connecting with people. I mean, I really enjoy that part. And I walked into the parking lot once, and I saw a man who was there, and I loved his family. I really liked them a lot. And he looked distraught in a way, and he's like, "Can we talk?" And I'm like, "Sure." He's like, "We're leaving the church." And I was like, "What's up? What's going on?" And he's like, "Well, my wife, when she was sick, she didn't really feel like you cared enough, and you didn't really visit enough." And at first I wanted to get really defensive and be like, "Well, you know," and I wanted to disagree, but then I thought about it, and they're probably right. They were probably right. And it was crushing to me because I'm like, could I be the reason that someone is leaving a church? My purpose here is to bring them to a relationship with Jesus, and I'm the reason that they might be pulling away from that? Could I be? So, I was crushed. My purpose and all of it was crushed. And the way I handled it was I just owned it. I said, "Yeah, I messed up." And so we talked about that. We grew in a great relationship because of that. But you know that feeling, right? That crushing feeling that sometimes we get in this life. And if you don't know that feeling yet, you'll get it eventually, right? Where we just mess up. And we ask this question of who am I? See, we all have those moments just like Peter where we're standing on a beach facing Jesus saying, "Who am I?" And so the question is, who is Jesus, though? Who is Jesus? And we've been asking that this whole series, who is Jesus? And here is the moment we need to know. You see, when we approach a resurrected Jesus, he doesn't want to keep you in your brokenness. We know brokenness. We are humans. We know brokenness. He doesn't want to just keep you there. He wants to heal you and help you to know of his love. And he doesn't want you even just stay in that place of knowing that you're loved and you loving Jesus, right? He wants you to know that you're loved, and then he wants to move you to a place where you have purpose. See, he wants to transform us to give us a purpose. Who is Jesus? He's God in the flesh. He's the risen Lord who meets us in our brokenness to tell us we are loved. What does it matter to us, right? Because if we say yes to that love, he is the one who transforms us, change us, right? And give us purpose in this world. Simon Peter went off to die for this cause. That moment was huge. That moment was transformative. And I don't know what you're dealing with today. I don't know if this is your first time at church or your 4,000th time at church. I have been doing ministry long enough to know that you can keep coming to church and being part of everything in churches and never really have to ask hard questions about that. I've done it for many years growing up in the church. We all stand face to face like Peter with Jesus. Will you follow Jesus and let him redefine your life? Will you let him transform your life? Will you let him heal you from the brokenness that you feel today and transform you? And so we have to answer this question for ourselves. Jesus is asking you personally, do you love me? Yes, I do, Lord. Feed my sheep. He's moving us to a place of purpose, of transformation, of moving into the world. Congregation, do you love Jesus? Let's be transformed by that love and let us do his work together. Amen.